What's something you and I have in common with everyone on the planet? We all get triggered. We all get annoyed. We all feel bothered sometimes by the actions of other people. And sometimes we probably feel like we're being treated poorly by another person or a group of people. And I've recently stumbled on something that I've been using to tell myself that's actually really been helping me get through those experiences when I feel annoyed by someone else, or especially when I feel like someone else is treating me badly. And it's been so helpful for me in my personal life that I wanted to take some time to record a little video about it in case it might be helpful for anyone listening. Before I dive into that, I'm going to tell you a secret, which is that one of my goals for 2025, so if you're listening to this, I am recording on December 30th of 2024, and one of my dreams, aspirations for the new year is to really increase my following on YouTube, because I've received some comments from people that feel really touched by my content, and I just want to keep giving. This is the year for me to focus on giving as much as I possibly can. And I'm sharing that to say, if you find any value in this content, I would so appreciate it if you could like, comment, but especially if you can share the video, subscribe, please. But sharing it is how people will find this content. And I am a firm believer that what we give and what we put out in the world will come back to us. And so, by you sharing my content, if you genuinely enjoy it and get value from it, then when the time comes for you to share your art or spread your message, or that you just need the world's support with something, it will come back to you because you've done it for me. And so I would appreciate it more than I can tell you. I'm not one to ask for these sorts of things. You'll notice most of my videos don't have a like, share, subscribe plug because it just feels weird. But I also recognize that that's how we get our message out there. And I also want to share that I have a free resource available to download that's in my description, the video description, as well as on my website, powerfulandpoised.com. This is a free downloadable PDF that goes through 5 really, really powerful perspective shifts to improve your confidence. I have worked for almost a decade as a public speaking coach. Public speaking is humanity's number one fear. It is so terrifying for the majority of people. And by having discussions with so many people over the years about these fears and learning what works, what helps people get over them, has given me such insight into the human mind and the psyche and how we can really genuinely improve our confidence in a way that will last long term. And I've consolidated the 5 most powerful perspective shifts, in my opinion, and put them into a PDF document that, again, you can download in the video description or by going to my website. Now that all that's out of the way, let's talk about this really cool thing that I've started doing. Oh, I think it's really cool. It's been really helpful for me. And that is, so to give you some background, I was in a situation, or I've been in an ongoing situation where I hired a woman for a service. And she kind of started slowly pulling back and not, long story short, not doing her job, not performing the service. I won't say she's officially ghosted me, but she definitely has not been communicative. And it has been bothering me so much. And at one point, I addressed it with her, and she didn't say I was annoying, but she basically said that I was being very anxious and that I needed to stop reaching out to her and asking for follow-ups. And one of the things she said to me, which was actually very helpful, she said, I found so much peace in my life when I learned to let people be who they are. and not be on top of people, not trying to control people all the time. Just let people be who they are and go at their own pace and do what they need to do. And then I also recently listened to a podcast with Oprah and Mel Robbins, who's promoting her new book called Let Them. I highly recommend checking out the podcast. I haven't read the book yet, but I do plan to. And she talks about her theory called the Let Them theory, which in a nutshell means let people be who they are. Let people do their own thing. Now, in the case of this woman that I hired, I feel a little more complicated because I hired her for a service. I am paying her money, and yes, I can let her be who she is, and she needs to do her job, I think. But it overall, as a philosophy, has been very helpful. So I do recommend checking out that episode with Oprah and Mel Robbins, checking out that book, and in general, just practicing letting people do their thing. We ultimately cannot control anyone else. Can't control anyone else's behaviors as much as we would like to. We can try and use psychology to manipulate someone else's behaviors, and we can probably get pretty far with that. But ultimately, it's not going to feel good, and it's a lot of energy for us to use to try to say, well, if I say it this way, maybe they'll react this way. And I think at the end of the day, let people be who they are, but we have to act in our own integrity and make sure we're showing up the way that is aligned with our values, recognizing that other people's value systems may be different. For the woman that I hired, for example, she doesn't value, and she's expressed this to me, it's not important for her to do things by a certain timeline. Even when she's told someone it would be done by that timeline, for me, that feels very egregious. For me, if I tell someone they're going to have something by tomorrow, I'm going to make sure they have it by tomorrow. And if they don't have it by tomorrow, I'm going to tell them that it won't be done by tomorrow. But her work style, and she's very comfortable admitting this, her work style is she'll tell me it'll be done by tomorrow, and then 2 weeks later, it still won't be done. And she's okay with that because she says she likes being a go with the flow kind of person. So perhaps our dynamic just doesn't work that well together. But instead of me causing myself with so much pain and suffering by thinking, oh my gosh, when's she going to get it done? I just have to kind of let go. But all of that is not the technique that I wanted to share today. What I have been doing in this particular case, and in some other instances where people have been doing something that I feel is treating me poorly. So I think if someone promises me something by a certain day and they don't do that, I think that's not nice. I think that's a form of lying, and I don't appreciate it. It doesn't align with my values. So in addition to just learning to let go and say, okay, let them, that's just them, I also found myself starting to say, at least I'm not them. Or feeling grateful to not be the person who's treating you poorly. So using another example, let's say someone is just being a bully. So in my case with the woman, that's her work style. Maybe we just have a clash on how we work. But let's say someone is outright being mean to you. Be grateful that you're not them. Be grateful that you're not engaging in that behavior. Now, this is not to suggest that we are better than anyone. We don't want to use this as a way to say, at least I'm not you. I'm so much better than you, because that's not true. We all have our faults, and there are things that other people may think that about us. Like, I'm so grateful I don't do that thing that Trisha does or that you do. But I found this to be very helpful because first I can be grateful that, I am so grateful that I value being considerate of people's time. Because to me, when I zoom out and take my emotions out of it, I think that's objectively a nice thing to do. And so I'm very grateful that that honestly is a value for me. I'm grateful that I'm naturally pretty punctual. At the same time, doing this and reflecting on this has also made me question, am I? Am I as reliable as I'm saying I am? So we normally get triggered or upset or frustrated by behaviors from other people when that behavior doesn't align with our value system, or when it's a behavior that we exhibit ourselves. So, for example, we may get really frustrated with someone who's always late, but we're always late ourselves because we're mirrors and we attract situations that mirror our own flaws and our own blind spots. And so what we can do that I find to be so powerful is to acknowledge the behavior in the other person that's annoying us and say, you know what? I'm grateful that's not me. And ask, is it me? Is it me sometimes? Where am I being unreliable in my life? So I may say, yeah, I really value responding to people on time and getting back to them, and then look down at my texts and realize I have like 10 unanswered messages that I've from a week ago, and I essentially ghosted this person. And so often we get upset by things that other people are doing that we are doing ourselves. So I find that this can be a really illuminating experience to shed light on our own blind spots. Now, let's say you do this and you notice the behavior and you think, do I do that? And you can't find any evidence that you do it yourself. Maybe every single person on my phone has had a response in a timely manner. So then we can ask, am I doing it to myself? So, for example, where in my life am I being unreliable to myself? Where am I making promises to myself and then not showing up? Because if we're doing that constantly to ourselves, we're likely to attract people that will do that to us as well. And so, in any case, I find noticing the mistreatment or what we perceive as mistreatment, the thing that bothers us, is step one. And then saying, you know, I'm grateful I'm not engaging in that behavior that I disagree with. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it's a full stop. Maybe someone's just being a bully. But first acknowledging the behavior that we don't like and just being grateful that you're not the one doing it. And then stopping and asking ourselves, am I doing it? Because before we can fault someone else, we really want to take a deep look at ourselves. And I think we often judge people for the things we're judging ourselves for most harshly. And we can release all the judgment and acknowledge we all have flaws. We all do things that bug other people. And this does not make us better or worse than anyone else. We are all the same. We are all one. But it helps to release that judgment. So instead of me judging the person for not getting back to me on time, it's just, you know what? I'm glad that's not how I operate my own business. I'm glad that's not how I function. And is this a signal that there's something I'm not seeing? Maybe I think that's not how I function, but maybe I do more often than not. And so we can observe and say, am I doing this to other people? And then the last thing we can observe and say, am I doing this to myself? Because it's not a coincidence, the way people treat us. There's something in our behavior or in our subconscious or in our energy that's attracting that sort of treatment from other people. And sometimes that feels really frustrating and you're like, but why? What did I do? And it's not meant to say you deserve bad treatment or you deserve punishment, but I think it can be a really cool opportunity if we let it. I recently heard someone say, and I don't remember who said it, but it was a quote that said, never let a trigger go to waste. Something like that. Like never waste a trigger. Basically, every time we're triggered by something, that's some valuable insight and information into our wounds, into our inner child wounds and trauma and places that we need to heal. And we wouldn't be annoyed by people if it didn't mean something. And sometimes it's just what we make it mean. It's the narrative that we're telling ourselves about it. And that's an opportunity for us to change the narrative with that one experience. And potentially that can shift the way we see things in general in life. So that's what I've been thinking about lately. And I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear if you apply this in the real world, how it works out for you. And if you have any additional suggestions or thoughts or advice that people can use to go with this practice, please put it in the comments. Again, please like, share, subscribe, comment. I would love to hear from you. And don't forget to go check out that free PDF that I've included in the video description, also available on my website. My goal for 2025 is to be a lot more consistent with this channel, to share a lot more information. I've got some fun things in the works as well that I can't wait to announce. I very much appreciate you listening, and I hope you found this helpful. Thank you.